Okay, so we're doing this video on perimeter, area, and volume. So we start off with perimeter. Perimeter is the adding up of all of your sides. You don't necessarily need a formula for the perimeter, even though there are formulas to calculate the perimeter. You don't need one. All you have to do is add up your sides. So we see the formula for the perimeter of the rectangle is P equal to 2L plus 2W. So 2L's mean your two lengths, and then 2W your two widths. If you were to add those together, you have your perimeter. Now, to calculate the area represents the inside of your shape, the amount of space that a shape takes up two-dimensionally. So you do need a formula to calculate the area. And for a rectangle, it's length times width. Every side has its own formula. So make sure you use the proper formula for the shape that you're dealing with. And then the volume is the amount of space that the shape takes up three-dimensionally. And once again, you need a formula for the volume. So the perimeter, even though there are formulas for the perimeter, you don't need a formula to calculate the perimeter. You can just add up all of your sides. But for the area and the volume, you need a formula to calculate those. Then as far as after your calculation, the measurement in perimeter will be its regular measurement. So if you're in inches, once you finish calculating, you'll stay in inches. But when you finish calculating in your area, you will have squared inches. When you finish calculating your volume, it will be cubic inches or inches cubed. Same thing with any other measurement if it's in feet. When you calculate your perimeter, it'll be in feet. Calculate your area, it'll be square footage. Calculate your volume, it'll be cubic footage or cubic feet. All right, so let's look at a few examples. If I want to find the perimeter and the area of this rectangle, I have 9 inches for my length, 3 inches for my width. So plug in 9 and 3, 2 times 9 plus 2 times 3, 2L plus 2W. 2 times 9 is 18, 2 times 3 is 6, and that'll be 24. Calculate the area, that's 9 times 3, and that'll be 27. Here we have a triangle. We want to find the area of a triangle. We use the formula 1/2 times base times your height. Our triangle here, we have a base of 16 centimeters. The height is 7 centimeters. Plug that into your formula, 1/2 times 16 times 7. The 1/2 is a part of the formula. So it's nothing that you have to come up with. 1/2 is a part of your formula. So 1/2 times 16 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. Here we have a trapezoid. We have 1/2 times A plus B times H. So the A and B are pretty much interchangeable, but the H needs to be on outside the height of your trapezoid. And of course, once again, we have 1/2. So in this trapezoid, we have 5 as our height, A is 9, B is 11. So 1/2 times 9 plus 11 times 5. 9 plus 11 is in parentheses, so you do that first, that's 20. 1/2 times 20 is 10, 10 times 5 is 50. Circles. They can give you your circle information one or two ways. Either they can give you a line going through the center from end to end, that would be a diameter, or if it's going from the center to one part or one end of your circle, that would be a radius. The relationship between the two is that your radius is 1/2 of your diameter. Your diameter is 2 times your radius. So if you have one, then you have the other. So if your diameter is 13 inches, you take half of 13, that's 6.5 for your radius. If your radius is 9 centimeters, multiply that times 2, which would be 18, that would be your diameter. So to calculate your circumference is your equivalence of the perimeter for other shapes. Remember your shapes, your perimeter is adding up all of your sides. Well, when your circle doesn't have sides, so it would be the circumference. So that's 2 pi times r, or pi times d, whichever one you decide to use. Your area is pi times r squared. Pi is a run-on decimal, 3.1415 on to infinity. So we will approximate it at 3.14. So let's say if we want to find the circumference in the area of this circle, and they ask us to give the exact and the approximation. Here, they got the line going through the center from end to end. That means that is our diameter. We need our radius for our formulas. So take half of that 20, that'd be 10. So 2 pi times r, and remember you could have used your diameter for circumference. I'm just using the radius because I'm going to use it in the area as well, but it doesn't matter which one. So 2 times pi times r is 10. This is 2, once again, times pi times r. All of that's multiplication. It doesn't matter what order you multiply them in, so you can simplify that and multiply the 10 times the 2, which would be 20. And that 20 pi would be considered your exact answer. That's because pi represents all of what pi is. So that run on decimal to infinity. Once you round it or truncate it or approximate it, that's when it turns into an approximation. So as long as the symbol pi is there, it's considered exact. So you simplify as much as you can with pi. And be careful when you're putting in your answer. Make sure you don't just do 20. That's 20 pi as your answer. Once you put 3.14 as pi, now you've turned it into approximation. 20 times 3.14 is 62.8 feet. So to find the area, we take the 10, plug it in for r. So that's pi 10 squared, excuse me. 10 squared is 100, so the exact answer is 100 pi. And then approximate by throwing 3.14 in for pi. 100 times 3.14 is 314. All right, and here we have a few examples of volume. Just like with the area, each shape has its own formula, so make sure you use the proper formula. The first example is a cylinder. That's V times pi r squared h. So here in this cylinder, the radius is 3.7, the height is 11.2. Plug those values in, then do your calculation. And we just went ahead and went with the approximation and multiply it out, 481.45. And don't forget, this is cubic centimeters. When you're done with your calculation of your volume, it's in cubic, whatever your measurement is. We started off in centimeters, so it's centimeters cubed. Here we have the cone. The volume of the cone is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. So be careful here. Our height is 8, but we don't have the radius like we have in the last one. We have the diameter, so we have to take half of that 5, which is 2.5. So that's the value that we will use in the formula. So that's 1/3 times 3.14 times 2.5 squared times 8. Plug it all in. You can simplify it all the way down to 157/3, or if you want the decimal value, 52.3 inches cubed. All right, let me know if you have any questions.